When life gets us down, we play our guitar. Okay, not us, but Ernesto de la Cruz does. Coco was one of the most beautiful Disney movies of 2017, and we bet many of you have watched it more than once. But have you ever found Nemo? Because we have. Do you want to be a DIY expert? Check out our friends at Crafty Hackers. They have the best hacks, crafts, and everything DIY. Watch their videos for the best household tricks, DIY decor, and fun recipes. If you love making crafts for your friends or just trying new things, they have everything you're looking for. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any awesome hacks and crafts. Pizza Planet. Have you noticed that the Pizza Planet truck has consistently appeared in every single Pixar movie except for The Incredibles? It's a Toy Story reference that seemed to have carried on, and we don't even know why. But the Pizza Planet truck is actually awesome. In the beginning of the movie, you can see Miguel open a window and a truck zooms right past him. If you pause at the right time, you'll see Pixar's biggest Easter egg ever. We're not talking about an actual Easter egg. We're talking about the famous Pizza Planet delivery truck. Although you can't see it in this movie, the truck has a sticker that says Krat FM, which is a shout out to Tia Kratter, one of Pixar's employees. You could also hear the truck play heavy rock music for the majority of the time, although we're not sure if that's in any shape or form connected to anything else. We're glad this mystery machine returns for another Pixar adventure. The Incredibles. But since The Incredibles the movie didn't have Pizza Planet in their movie, Coco decided to give a little shout out to them too. Unless you pay a lot of attention to the background, this scene can be easily missed because, let's be honest, watching Miguel and Hector go around town was just far too more entertaining to focus on anything else. But The Incredibles shout out was actually very visible, especially since pretty much everyone has seen the red posters and know what they look like. You can see The Incredibles poster when Miguel and Hector walk through the land of the dead. It's on the right side when they go right through the slightly creepy skeletons. But why would the Land of the Dead even have The Incredibles as an advertisement? Does the Land of the Dead get movie releases way later than anyone else? We'll probably never know the answer, but if it's true, they're in for a treat because there have been a lot of awesome movies that were released after The Incredibles. Speaking of, would the residents of the Land of the Dead get scared of horror movies? Okay, too many questions. Let's move on to the next little Easter egg you don't know unless you know everything about Pixar. A113. The Pizza Planet isn't the only continuous connection you can find in Pixar movies. It seems like the Pixar staff are a tight-knit community that appreciates where they came from and how they got their jobs. The room number A113 is something you never paid attention to, but it's something you can often find on various classrooms, license plate numbers, and so on in various Pixar movies. It represents the classroom that was used by character animation students at the California Institute of the Arts. Many of the students were a part of the Pixar staff, so the tribute to the classroom can be seen in plenty of cartoons. You can also catch it on the decor of the Bureau of Family Grievances in Coco. Just pay close attention to the door behind the Riviera family. So next time you watch a Pixar movie, see if you can spot the room number. We can guarantee it's in way more movies than you know. And to be completely honest, this story is pretty awesome and deserves to be its own movie. We'd love to know more about what it takes to be a Pixar animator, because judging from some of the facts we found, it's a really hard job. So shout out to the animators from Classroom A113 who managed to make it big in Hollywood. Toy Story. Okay, 2 more Easter eggs before we move on to some of the more interesting facts and trivia about this amazing movie. Easter eggs are the coolest things, and we love finding connections to the different movies and creative shoutouts they make to each other. Coco is exactly the same when it comes to shoutouts. You can catch another shoutout to Toy Story with the skull. Have you noticed it? If you're not a big Toy Story fan, this one might not make sense, so we'll try to break it down. Do you remember Sid's famous skull shirt? It's what a lot of kids wanted. The skull shirt has been remodeled in Coco. Although you can't spot it in the movie, the promo posters actually have the skull that's been revamped as the Day of the Dead sugar skull. This type of skull is very well known in Mexican culture, as the Day of the Dead is probably one of the most interesting cultural holidays ever. It's all about honoring the deceased loved ones, and people believe that the gates of heaven open at midnight on October 31st, and the spirits of children that are no longer alive can be reunited with the families. It seems very fitting that Sid's skull shirt got a makeover that actually represents a culture. The Shining. But since Coco actually has a pretty scary story, if you're not a fan of things that aren't alive, you probably guessed it also has some references to other scary movies, like The Shining, which is easily one of the scariest horror books ever. Coco gave a shout out to Stephen King in one of the early parts of the movie, and it was confirmed by the director himself. You can see the axe from The Shining stuck in a tree stump in a scene where Dante wakes up and climbs the tree where Miguel is. It's hardly noticeable, but a pretty impressive shout out. In the very same scene, there's another reference to The Shining. It's the red rum, and it's located right next to the axe. If you don't know what the red rum means, just spell it backwards and you'll probably understand why The Shining is actually a horror movie. Some of you are probably way too young to know about the red rum scene and The Shining in general, so it's very interesting that such obscure references would make its way into a movie like Coco. We definitely didn't expect to see such dark Easter eggs in here, but it looks like the director was a huge fan of The Shining. Genuine shoemaking. The Riviera family's shoemaking facilities were actually inspired by a real shoemaker shop in Mexico. If you ever visited one, you know that they're extremely detailed, but also slightly unusual looking and definitely not what any regular shop would look like. You probably also know that when you enter a shoemaking business, you're always hit with the smell of leather. So the team behind the movie made sure they included a lot of details that made the store look as alive as possible. This also meant adding defunct shoemaking tools, rolls of leather, and things like old signs. This all made it feel like the Riviera shoemaking business was actually around for hundreds of years, which really made the story even more important and heartfelt. We're sure the movie would turn out just fine if it didn't have the same kind of details, but let's be honest, it's tiny details like these that really make us appreciate good movies. And we bet every shoemaker is proud of the accurate representation in Coco. Food. If you've ever watched any animation movies, you probably noticed that unless food is the main focus of the story, it probably lacks character, and sometimes it even doesn't look anything like the real deal. But the story is slightly different with Coco. A lot of detail was also put into actual animations to make sure the food actually looks realistic. This brings the story to life, and it's almost a shout out to Mexico's amazing cuisine. It makes sense, right? It's been known that food is by far the hardest object to animate, and the details often give animators a headache. But what you didn't know is how hard it was to getting the right sheen on the turkey leg for Dante. To make sure they're doing it right, filmmakers referenced a lot of authentic dishes and even made tamales together so the team could get a feel of what the food actually looks like. Well, the team definitely did something right. If you're going to highlight a culture and talk about it, you probably have to make sure you pay attention to every detail to make sure it's appreciated by the people you're actually talking about. We can't even decide which food looks the best in Coco because they all look delicious. Ernesto de la Cruz. Speaking of detail that went into this movie, a lot of it can actually be seen from Ernesto de la Cruz, the musician that's completely admired by Miguel. Miguel was so inspired by Ernesto, he taught himself how to play the guitar just by watching the videos. But what you didn't realize was just how much detail went into Ernesto's backstory. The filmmakers created an entire imaginary career, which included a timeline of his movies, songs, and albums. Now that's pretty impressive to do for someone that's not even the main character of the story. The producers were really dedicated to creating authentic characters. Ernesto was also heavily influenced by real Mexican stars such as Pedro Infante and Jorge Negrete. And actor Benjamin Bratt actually drew a lot of inspiration from his father for Ernesto's character. They really wanted to make sure that he wasn't just some character with very little backstory, because who would believe that Miguel would admire someone like that? Ernesto's character comes with so much detail it almost seems like another movie could be made just about him, and that's what makes Coco so awesome. Family genes. The character detail continues when you notice this little gem you probably missed. In fact, we've rarely seen any other cartoon actually pay so much attention to little things, but Coco seems to do this really well. Normally, cartoons only feature a set of twins, and we never get to learn about their extended families and how many twins there are, because after all, we all know that having twins is genetic, so if they're common in your family, you're bound to have twins too. The Riviera family shares this detail, as Miguel has twin uncles, as well as twin cousins. Miguel's twin uncles are Tio Felipe and Tio Oscar, and twin cousins are the 4-year-olds Vinny and Manny. Whether this was intentional or not, it's a pretty cool thing to pay attention to when you're trying to bring a story to life. A Tumblr user, Hey, it's Juju, made an awesome Riviera family tree where you can clearly see the relations. But we do wonder how far this family tree actually goes, because we bet there are far more twins in the Riviera family than we know of. And let's be honest, Riviera twins are the best cartoon twins ever, with hardly any competition from any other movies. We're telling you, the detail in this movie is amazing. Finding Nemo. Guys, we finally found Nemo. Some of the characters seem to have escaped the actual Finding Nemo movie, and they appeared in Coco. After we see the Planet Pizza truck, Miguel heads off to start his day, and we see him walk around town. Isn't it strange how we get so many references and Easter eggs right at the beginning of the movie? It's a perfect way to make you want to watch the entire thing. Anyways, Miguel ventures to the town center, where you can see a table with a bunch of toys on it. But they're not just any toys. These are the toys that characters can purchase, which is probably why they resemble some of our favorite characters ever. Can you find Nemo and Dory? Nemo is located behind the red giraffe on the left side, and Dory can be found in front of the green dragon. They're super small, but we promise you that you'll be able to see them. Speaking of, can you recognize any other characters on the table? It's hard to tell if any of them belong to any popular characters, but we know you have a far better eyesight for these things than we do. So if you do catch something, make sure to let us know. And that's it for this video. Don't forget to subscribe to The Things and give this video a big thumbs up. See you next time!